Yeah, had a good weekend.
Oh yeah, it was cool. We can't complain.
We can't complain.
Yeah, so
Everything
far,
is
so
fine.
good.
We
Yes.
are there fine. We
Yeah.
are there fine. We are there fine. Ivan, let me start a conversation with you this morning. First of all, with the issues concerning, now we know is a fake Paralympic team.
Yes.
According to the National Paralympic team, they say that they have absolutely no idea who these people are and that signatories were forged for them to get these documents. Now, this is not the first time we are having a conversation surrounding some of these things. Came up 2018, we know the story. The former Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports, Opara Zainam Haji, that was mentioned in that conversation. I do recall that even cost the NSA boss at the time, Safo Mensah, his job. For many, ordinary people like you and me, maybe, just maybe, may suffer the next time we apply to some of these embassies for visas, because then they are going to be tagging us. These people, Charlie, we won't give them, we don't trust them. I don't know what your thoughts on this issue are.
I think it's very shameful to be very honest with you. You see, visa fraud and visa racketeering has become a common phenomenon in our scheme of affairs. And very often you see a dedicated syndicate who are often committed to some of these enterprises, and they execute them with some level of sophistication and flawlessly. So at that level, it's understandable, because it's not only in Ghana that you often hear of such enterprises. But it's shocking when it moves from an individual level, individual criminals level, to a state level, where state machineries are being used to execute such criminal enterprises. I think that is where we need to be very much concerned as a country, because in all the news that is flying, it is Ghana, not about individuals. So, and if you trace back, like you rightly said, if you go back to the past, that we have a track record, a very horrible one, what happened in Australia. You see, the state culpability become quite apparent when in instances like this, you don't see any proper investigation being conducted to identify the culprit and subsequently punish them in order to deter further engagement. Because state, if you don't punish people to deter them from engaging in subsequent or future activities, definitely you set a certain
precedent
trend, and it will continue. So where we are today, I am not surprised. You see, when the issue broke up, I have seen a number of correspondences flowing on social media in a certain hasty attempt to exonerate themselves from this whole embarrassment. I've seen a number of correspondence letters and justifications being circulated on social media. You see, some of these things will not resolve the matter. I am looking at a situation where the state will commit certain resources into investigating some of these things, because it's become one too many, especially when state machineries are being used to execute some of these criminal enterprises.
At this point, we do not know of any, say, government official who was involved in this Norwegian story at this point.
Yes, no, you cannot do away with the involvement of government, because somebody working for government signature was forged. You understand? I think one Samson
Dean does not work with government. He's the president of the National Paralympic Committee.
Yes, which one or the other falls under the NSA. So government involvement in some of these things, you cannot disconnect them. So when things happen like this, and again, it is the name Ghana that is being bandied around at the global stage and even in Ghana here. So whichever way you see it, Ghana's interest is on the line. So there must be a certain renewed interest. We need to take a vested interest in some of these activities and conduct a forensic investigation, because somebody cannot just present a fake documents to the embassy and nothing is done, and in the end they go through. There are a number of people who were actually involved in this particular matter. So in order
some names have been mentioned.
Yes, some names have been mentioned, and I'm not sure they are the only people involved. So some of these things, people will prefer to throw out which name they deem fit to throw out there. But we need to embark on a forensic investigation from day one up to where we've got into. Because to get a number of 11 people out there and all of a sudden everybody vanishes, you don't see any one of them. And according to the report, somebody died there.
Yeah.
And the family members were flown to Norway to go and identify the body. They themselves have absconded. They cannot be identified. So it's not something that we can just joke with it that like we did in the past when it happened in Australia. It turned into NDC and MPP politics where justification people will just justify depending on where they stand across the political divide. And in the end, we could not resolve that particular matter. Nobody was punished. Nobody was penalized, and it's become.
Well, to be fair, investigations was conducted into this, and some people were cleared
into a hasty conclusion. No. I'm
not in a position to say it was a hasty one.
Yes,
I'm not an investigator.
But we are entitled to express our opinion as citizens. Of course. You understand? So a hasty conclusion. At the end of the day, the person at the center of it was even gifted with an appointment and a whole lot of stuff. So
if he's been cleared,
it is not punitive enough. That is what I'm saying. We need to, because if we had resolved that particular matter in such a way that people who were actually involved in that scandal, because there was a scandal. Some individuals who were not journalists were actually sent there. Some people who were not disabled were actually sent there under certain fraudulent circumstances. So there were certain culpabilities. So you need to identify people who committed those crimes. You punish them so that you deter people from engaging in such activities going forward. But if you fold your arms and you do nothing, at the end of the day, like you set a stage for other people to do it. Because I'm just tracking the trajectory of events where documents were signed, documents were issued, all in the name of the state, the Para-Olympic Committee, the team, and the leader, his signature, and other people's involvement cannot be brushed under the carpet. So when the issue comes like this, you see a lot of people in a hasty attempt to dodge the conversation, exonerate themselves. But you see, it is not up to them. It is up to us as a state to say this thing is becoming one too many. We need to set up a proper investigative team. Maybe if it is the national security or whichever agency we deem fit can help us at the preliminary stage. Let us set a stage so that the conversation wouldn't be like we are speaking to speculations. We cannot just sit here and be speaking to speculations. We need to set a stage. At the preliminary stages, just lay out the fact, the bare fact, so that when we are speaking, we know this is the line that we are going. But apart from the radio conversation, you don't actually see anything. No commitment, zero commitment on the part of government. But at the end of the day, Ghana is becoming a global embarrassment. Like we said, in the recent football, this thing that happened in Qatar, are you aware that Nigeria, yes, you said it, Nigeria was blacklisted?
I was there, so I saw that myself.
Exactly. And there are several countries. They don't even trust people coming from Africa. It doesn't matter how genuine the case you will present.
So whatever we present at the embassy is so scrutinized.
Exactly. So you become a joke in the eyes of these people, the international community. And I think at this stage, and again, there is something very fundamental that we also need to look at. Why is this hasty attempt on the part of people to just exit the shores of the country? It tells you that the environment...
People would always travel anywhere in the world.
Yes, but you see the desperation with which, because I know people travel, and always people will travel, but the desperation with which people are using fraudulent means to acquire visa and stuff to travel, it tells you there is a problem. Economic viability. The economy of this particular country, is it stable? Is it sustainable enough to provide job opportunities for the teeming youth? Now you have a number of people who are even rushing to a death den somewhere in Libya, in a desperate attempt to sit on a balloon and then travel all the way to Europe. Why would people risk everything and take such a perilous journey in the name to seek a greener pasture? It tells you that there is something fundamental that is wrong in this country and that we need to pay critical attention to. Because these people, how do we even take care of them? These disabled people, we don't even respect them. But if you get out there, UK, America, these people are under the care of government. There is a dedicated money fund that is committed to taking care of them. Recently, you've seen a number of Ghanaians exiting the shores of this country to go to UK and America just to take care of these people. They have no economic value. Some of them cannot do anything. Some are imbeciles. Some cannot do anything. But the state recognize the fact that they are human beings. They deserve some respect and some dignity. Is the reason why the state is spending so much by even importing people from outside the shores of their country to come and take care of them. We have these people here. Those who recently went for the Olympics and they won the tournament. I think one of the...
They went to Africa. That was the African competition that they won in Egypt.
Yes. You saw the press conference that the minister did. And you're a sports person, and I'm sure you understand some of these things. The tone, the vulgarity in the tone, the way and manner he spoke to them. And you see, it doesn't engender confidence. it takes away hope. So when people get opportunity like this, hey, if you come back, then that is up to you. They will go. So I think we need to do things right. Begin to recognize that the fact that somebody is disabled doesn't mean he's not a human being. We need to respect them. And maybe if it is possible to create a certain viable enterprise for them that will make their life a bit comfortable here, it will take away some of these issues. Because you see, year on every all the time, people are just amping, and there are a lot of organizations that are funding some of these things, fake disability organizations and enterprises coming up, all in a bid to just travel out. Because how can we Ghana be accepted into a tournament, and in the end a certain group of people will just represent the country
and nobody even knows about
the
them.
knowledge of everybody from the NSA to one, nobody feigning ignorance.
And this was in April anyway.
Yes,
it wasn't yesterday.
It doesn't make sense. You understand? So some of these things, what will help us is proper investigation, but I doubt, because I'm not sure the state is really
okay. So let's allow the investigations to be done, and then maybe based on the conclusion that they will draw, we can also make our comments.
If only
as to whether
if only they will do
or not,
because we've seen the unwillingness in the past, the inertia on the part of the state to commit machinery into investigating some of these things. Because at the end of the day, the very people who will be identified, the very people who will be fished out after the investigation are part of the establishment, and nobody wants to unearth some of these individuals. So I think, you see, we need to take leadership to a certain level. We need to elevate to a certain level where people will begin to have trust in institutions of state. Because if you look at the conversation going that is running around on various social media, the poverty of intellect that the conversation lives in this wake is quite outstanding, and it's shocking. And for me, I am looking at a situation where the state will say, hey, enough of this nonsense. Let us set up a panel, investigate this particular thing to the bottom. At the end of the day, we identify the culprit. We punish them to serve as a deterrent, to deter further engagement. But if you don't do that and it becomes a media conversation, we run around the issue just like that, we will come here next time and come and discuss it. Because in the past, you sat in the studio, you discussed the Australian visa scandal, right? Today we are here. Next time we are going to discuss another one.
Okay.
So
again, let's wait and see what will be the action that will be taken, especially
to develop the country. It's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
I think politics 10 years ago is different from politics today. Governance has assumed a certain higher intellectual prominence, of which actors or politicians must sit at par with that level. Else, if you disengage from that particular level, you become a constant figure of public ridicule in everything that happens. You see, governance is an enterprise that runs on trust and confidence that citizens repose in the establishment. So at any point in time that trust waver, there will be a problem. So you must always do things to engender trust and confidence that people repose in that thing. Conflict of interest, the last time I told you, bears no criminal liability, but it is a moral and ethical principle that is meant to engender this trust and confidence. We've seen in the past what has happened in this country. When you talk about state capture, it is just a matter of using your privileged position to acquire wealth in an either ethical or an unprincipled manner. And that is exactly the space this whole thing falls within. We have seen judges buying their own cars at a ridiculous 7K. We are not talking about ordinary cars, though. We are talking about V8 being sold to judges at 7K, 7,000 Ghana cedis, and several other people because of the privileged position they hold. And that is a problem. So we need to do it in such a way that, yes, if we have a laid out, maybe there's a layout guidelines that people need to go through, processes well established and well defined, that if you're a Ghanaian, it doesn't matter who you are, minister or whoever, these are the processes you go through to acquire estate land, that for sure people will not complain. But under certain surreptitious circumstances, people, by the virtue of the position that they hold, they get into the room and they're able to bribe or convince few people, and state assets are being sold to them. It doesn't make things right. And you see, there is this justification out there. It happened in the past. The fact that it happened in the past doesn't justify it. It doesn't justify what is happening today.
Class 1.3 FM.
I started by saying politics 10 years ago is different from politics today. You see, now information is quite available. with this advent of social media and these innovative platforms, people can easily consume information, especially young people. And the more you consume information, you become enlightened. You get to know what is happening and you follow the conversation. So people might have bought state land in the past. Obviously, the conversation, they could have, like he said, Ghana firms and stuff. These things could have been done under the cover of darkness. But today, any attempt to acquire state land will be visible to the Ghanaian. People will know, and they will begin to scrutinize the processes. That's like what we did to Brian Champon's botched attempt to buy these hotels. If you look at the processes, read through the documents and other stuff. In the past, people didn't have the benefit of going through.
You even see the documents.
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. We are on a different stage. We are on a different pedestal. Governance, leadership, politics has assumed a certain intellectual prominence. So if you're an actor, you need to upgrade yourself to that level. Else, you become a constant figure of you have a public mortification.
Ivan, Matthias mentioned something. Today, you are Ivan Che.
Okay.
Today.
Yes.
You're Ghanaian. You're Ivan Che.
Yes.
Tomorrow, Ivan Che becomes a minister.
Yes.
What would be wrong with you buying the state land?
Yes, it will be wrong.
I'm only asking.
Yes, it will. Because I'll be in a certain
Buying it through the proper channel.
No,
will be wrong?
when I said, what is the proper channel? Do we have a well laid out procedure that if you want to buy state assets? You see, when we come out with a proper laid out procedure, that if you're a government official, these are the processes. I am not saying
so that is the argument you should
exactly.
Yeah, but don't say that.
And no, I'm saying that because we don't have such processes in place. We don't have such guidelines. So now everybody is just buying. You understand? So until we get there and establish these procedures, that when a person, Mr. Matthias is a minister, he goes through the mill and the process is well defined. The average and the ordinary Ghanaian looks through the process and says, oh, it's a fair process. He's a Ghanaian and he's entitled to that. But until that is done, this moral and ethical obligation hangs on all of us, because the very moment you go in for it, it doesn't matter how much you pay. The perception, I'm telling you, politics thrives on perception. Whichever way you see it, you cannot disengage public perception from politics, because it is that informs the perception and the kind of opinion that people make. So we need to regulate some of these things in such a way that we must always be on the good side of the people. Else, if the processes are shrouded in a whole lot of stuff where people are engineering, like what happened in the last conversation that we mentioned, the Brian Champon case, where you've paid a company to advise you, you jettison the advice, do the other way around without any proper justification. You set up a bidding process, laying out the valuation, and then you jettison for. You see, when you do some of these things, it raises a lot of questions. So I think that so far as conflict of interest binds government officials in not to engage in some of these things, I think it will be wrong. That is why
if they get that,
it will be wrong.
Fair point. David, quickly, so that we'll move to our final topic.
We should also not lose. We are losing something.
Send to that, Ivan. Briefly,
yes,
unfortunately, my time is up.
As a student of American politics, debates like they rightly outlined is very, very important, especially at the presidential level, because it gives the opportunity for people to lay out the vision that they have for the country. So it's good. But the question, if you look at an advanced democracy like America, where politics dwells on key and critical issues, intellectual politics, in our part of the world, it's a different ballgame. People do emotional politics, tribal politics, ethnocentric, whole kind of politics. Sometimes regionalism and those things even come in. So it's a different ballgame altogether. So have we sat down to assess the impact of presidential debate on the electoral fortunes of political parties? The answer is no. So depending on who you are or what you want to, the kind of premium you want to put on this particular thing, depending on how you see it, because there is no scientific basis to quantify.
So that people listen to the leaders on the stage and made their choices.
Exactly. These are, so if somebody decide not to, and from the conversation, I'm not sure John Mahama has bowed out completely. He's saying he has issues with IEA. But like, you see, in a more advanced democracies, you will not have this issue. The first American presidential debate was organized by CNN. CNN is a liberal platform. They've been running
Republican
campaign, anti a very harsh one. So when they had opportunity to run the first debate, they thought they were going to destroy Trump. In the end, look at what has happened to Biden. So, you understand? But you see, we've not gotten to that particular level. So sentiments, emotions, and those kind of stuff will come in, especially when Jay Mensah, who is a key figure so far as IEA is concerned, She's no longer there, but her influence or whatever cannot be, discounted. So the fact is, let us be real. Look at what is going on at IPAC. The NDC and Jane Mensah has been at a loggerheads from day one since her appointment. And obviously, I know that debate will not come on.
Okay. At this point, we do not know. At this point, we do not know. So let's wait and see whether the debate will come on or not. Well, unfortunately, my time is up and I do have to. This one says, Kwame, somebody was removed from EC chair and she was put there. There was no vacancy for the position. About me and Nanado refused it in the past. It was fine. Nothing has changed.